The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery, but the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rochester Press Box. Filling in for Bill Pucko, I'm Tariq Spence, being brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse. As always, Pat Duffy here.
Hey-o.
I like this.
Okay.
I like the athletics jersey. What's the reason?
This is one of my favorite ones. Well, I mean, we're in spring training time. It's a Blue Moon Odom jersey. If you're a deep baseball fan, you know. So, 500 pitcher, part of the dynasty that were the A's. But I believe he's the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history to pinch run over 100 times.
Wow.
There's your fun fact of the day.
And back in the day, being an old guy, remember this, had a blue glove.
Yeah.
Blue Moon Odom. Blue glove. That was pretty sweet back in the day.
Good to have you back, Carl Falk.
Thank you.
A couple different things to get into. We're going to championship week for college basketball, both men's, women's, every division there is. We also have, of course, the tournament right around the corner. There are some concerns. I don't want to go into the doomsday prep theory here, but there is a virus that has got everybody's attention.
Wait. I haven't heard about this. What is this thing?
Don't you worry. It doesn't affect you.
Hey, you want Corona?
With that bright jersey on, you're fine. But there is a concern about this virus that has gotten everybody's attention. Do you think, Carl, that this is going to affect the tournament games and anybody going to those tournaments?
Anybody going, yes. There will be people who immediately will not travel, will not leave their house. There's always going to be the reactionary people. Chicago State canceled a road trip this weekend for both their men's and women's teams. Look, it's a real thing. It is a big deal. It's scary. But we're not going to shut down. March Madness generates how many billions of dollars for the NCAA and CBS and TNT? You really think that money is going to go away? You think the Final Four is going to be played in front of empty arenas with how many thousands and tens of thousands of people who travel to the cities every year? No, it's not going to change a thing, but there will be people who stay home.
Are you worried about it?
I'm not worried about it, but I do find it very interesting because the NCAA wants you to believe that this is an amateur basketball tournament, right? So if it's an amateur basketball tournament, you don't need all of these people in the crowd. It's just all about the sport and these schools representing itself. Like, if anybody contracts anything at any of these tournament games, which is it's a possibility, right? Like, you have these kids on campus, some of which come from out of country, that are now moving from these concentrated areas to other concentrated areas to all yell and scream on each other. How do you not, if you're that worried about it, play these games in front of empty arenas? If you are strictly here as an amateur athletic association, it's another example of the hypocrisy of the NCAA doing something, putting people at risk so they can make money.
And everybody around them. Think about the hotels, the travels, the beer, the drinks, everything, the food.
100%.
There is a lot of travel with it. What about Major League Baseball? This is the start of their season coming up within the next couple of weeks or so. They've still got spring training, so you're going to have all these people moving from their spring training facilities now to major facilities as well in major metropolitan cities going forward with the start of your season. They said they're not going to postpone anything. Games go on.
I think there'll be a lot more precautions taken. We saw this, you go back to the early 90s when Magic Johnson came out and said he had the HIV virus, and all of a sudden there were new rules for people who had blood on their uniforms. You had to change the uniform. There were different precautions taken to eliminate anything from happening. That's what's going to happen. Smart medical people are going to look at this and, all right, we're safe if. Or maybe the word should be, we're safer if we do X, Y, Z. And I think that's what the leagues will try to do.
Every health professional says, just wash your hands. Shouldn't we be doing that anyway? Literally.
Like if I'm not touching anything, I wash myself pretty well in the morning. So
Okay.
I don't feel I have to wash every time I use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I would.
Well, no.
I would.
Like I just used it. You guys didn't know I didn't wash my hands. It's totally fine.
You didn't wash your hands? We'll be back coming up next on the Rochester Press Box, being brought to you by Genesee Brewhouse.
The Press Box is brought to you in part by Bay & Goodman Pizza, a local Rochester favorite. Corner of North Winton and Browncroft, Bay & Goodman Pizza.
Welcome back to the Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko. Of course, it's time to get into the Bill segment, as always, being presented by Genesee Brew House. All right, Pat Duffy, I saw this tweet. You do not want to see Frank Gore leave?
Okay, so I'm torn here. Like, it's better for on-field stuff that Gore takes his walk and goes home because, like, you know, what he did last year was amazing. Not on the field so much, but off the field. He and Devin Singletary have this bond. He did nothing but gush over him. Devin Singletary has talked about how important his success, the success that he had was with Gore being there. Mm-hmm. My bigger issue is the leaders that you have to replace next season. I mean, Frank Gore is a guy who spoke and people listened. You also lose Lorenzo Alexander, a guy who spoke and people listened. My fear is, do you have enough guys in the room that were able to absorb what those guys did to keep up what the Bills have done? Because it seems like this locker room culture that McDermott was preaching about, that I kind of thought was BS for a while, is actually working for them.
But could it have worked in 1 year for Frank Gore to transition over and have other players take the Frank Gore philosophy?
Well, the philosophy of a veteran in every room, every position group is going to have a veteran, and Devin Singletary's got to be the bell cow this year. And most people think the Bills need to add another young back to complement him. Gore's loss in that room will be felt, but Patrick DeMarco's likely to still be on the roster, and technically he's a running back. Why he's still on the roster and technically he's still a running back, I don't know. But he's the veteran in the room, and if he's not there for leadership, find me a reason he's still on this roster.
Buffalo Bills have $83 million. Where do you go? Defense, offense, or both?
Well, it all depends on the draft. I mean, if you're going to go receiver in the draft, you go defensive line with that money. And if the plan is to go receiver in the draft, which if you're going to go high, I don't know if you do that because it's a deep receiver draft. We've talked about this all the time. Don't spend the money just to spend it. That's a mistake we made before. But, I mean, depending on what free agents are out there, you might come back and take a look at a Shaq Lawson or Jordan Phillips, as much as it scares me a little bit. You have the money to spend on your offensive line, either bring guys back or find someone. I'm more willing to spend it on offense if that's me. I'll take a proven wide receiver in the league over a guy that I have to draft and develop over the next couple of years. We're on that shot clock with the rookie contract for Josh Allen. You've got 3 years left in which you can spend money other places. Spend it offensively. Let the defense figure itself out.
Mock draft for the Bills has Justin Jefferson, LSU wide receiver for the Bills. That's today. That could change by the time this show airs.
Yeah, well, the mock draft season is beginning, and, you know, everyone's got their second and third. Now we're post-combine. So we really know how fast guys are and how great their college. They're getting better and getting worse, yet they haven't played a game. Justin Jefferson's going to be probably a good player in the league. LSU is loaded with talent. Look, as long as it's not a Clemson receiver, because you don't take Clemson receivers, 10 of them since 2010 drafted. One guy has made a Pro Bowl. One guy has been a good player. That, of course, is DeAndre Hopkins. Bills fans have had it, in my opinion, with Clemson receivers. Take a receiver from LSU, but more importantly, do not draft for need. Draft by your board. The minute you go by need instead of your board, you're likely to draft somebody you didn't have ranked that highly.
Oh, tough. Sammy Watkins still stings.
I mean, whatever. It's good for your Super Bowl ring. You had 4 good games last season out of 18. Congratulations.
No congratulations going out to LaShawn McCoy?
Oh, no, don't even send me down that road. I mean, that was a whole, like the drama that ensued the last, 18 months that he was here. And by the way, congratulations for what? Having the best seat in the house when he was at the Super Bowl?
Nice party
of one. Bitter party of one.
Sweet t-shirt. That's nice.
Coming up next, like it or not, you're watching the Rochester Press Box being brought to you by the Genesee Brew House.
Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
I mean, like it or not, the New York Yankees are, ignoring the milestone marks for A-Rod. Like that or not.
Listen, the Yankees can ignore it all they want, but it's going to be there, and it's a cloud that kind of lingers over their stadium. But what I can't figure out for the life of me is the way Yankees fans feel about A-Rod, because I believe it was the beginning of the season opener, and you hear this big roar of applause when A-Rod steps up to the plate. How long ago was it when they were booing A-Rod for even being there? So the A-Rod thing, it baffles me. I understand what the organization's trying to do. They're just trying to sweep it under the rug, and they want him out of there. They just want him gone. They want to wash their hands of A-Rod. But the Yankees fans are what really confuse me today.
Don't you think that reaction makes them look even worse?
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing about this is that I'm actually angry at the Yankees. He's still on your team. You're still going to pay him. Mm-hmm. So embrace him. The Yankee fans, what else do you have to cheer for? Tanaka's out. He's not playing very well. Jeter's retired. They have nothing to cheer for but A-Rod.
Yeah, I would rather see. Sometimes it's okay to be a little indifferent. And I know A-Rod's like the last person anybody's going to be indifferent. But like when Ryan Braun came back to the Brewers,
Cheers.
He gets a standing ovation. I mean, I don't mean you got to boo him for every step he takes to the plate, but does he deserve a standing ovation? I'm with Kim. When I saw that with A-Rod, I was like,
I didn't see it coming.
They lack any sort of star power on that team?
This is all they have.
But that doesn't mean you have to cheer for them.
Right, and
Have
really
you seen
cheer.
the ticket prices? I'd have to cheer for them.
I mean, in pursuing Willie Mays in the home run race isn't something you can kind of just like, hey, it doesn't exist. It exists.
Yeah, but there is a difference between really pumping it up, building it up, A-Rod, and selling tickets and all around it, and just kind of letting it happen. I think it's just going to happen.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, being brought to you by the Genesee Brew House. Like it or not, all right, Carl Falk, Yankees got a problem. 2 players are down, Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge. They might not even make it to opening day. You worried?
No, because the bullpen is still intact. And I know Paxton's hurt, and I know Severino's out. Look, they'll figure this out. They've got a ton of outfield candidates, and one of whom, Clint Frazier, did not get a chance last year. And every day I'd go on the air last year and talk about Clint Frazier. Another injury, well, maybe Clint Frazier. Whatever they have against this guy, at some point, you got to let him see if he can be the major league player they thought he was going to be when they traded for him. Giancarlo did nothing last year. They won, 103 games? Judge missed half the season. They'll be fine.
The Bronx Bombers always have an opportunity to win a World Series. It's almost as if the pressure's on now more than ever for Giancarlo Stanton, who hasn't had that Yankee moment yet. They're all over him down in New York.
It's amazing because if you look at while they were Yankees, he and Judge, they're very similar, their numbers. And Yankee fans, Aaron Judge still walks on water. Giancarlo, he can't do anything right.
Absolutely. All right, Duffy, big move by Joe Burrow. He's sat down and talked with Cincinnati, and they said, by the way, in this unofficial meeting that Peter King was talking about, he wants A.J. Green. Do you sort of bend to the rookie before you sign him?
Okay, this is all a propaganda thing, right? Like, it's amazing that little piece of information was able to leak out to Peter King. He's covering his own behind, and it's a very shrewd move by Joe Burrow, right? Like, if you want the team to succeed, so the fans look at that and go, yeah, this kid thinks he can do something, and let's say that A.J. Green is still around next year. Well, it makes it look like this is the guy you wanted on the roster, but let's be real here. An owner of a team, especially the Brown family, is going to let a rookie come in and tell them what they're going to do with their roster. There are NFL veterans. There are five quarterbacks in the NFL that could look at their owner and say, this is the player I want, keep him or go get him. Joe Burrow isn't one of them.
Well, wait a minute now. We've seen this before with Eli Manning. We've seen this before with John Elway. Kind of, I'll go play baseball. I'll decide I don't want to play. I don't want to sign with you. You like that strong arm move?
Well, what's Joe Burrow's leverage really? Is he going to sit out? Is he really not going to go there? Do you really believe that this kid is that talented? I mean, a year ago, nobody had Joe Burrow anywhere.
Thank you.
He had a great year on a great team with a great coaching staff. Does that mean he's going to be the next Andrew Luck? Go ahead, sit out. If I'm Cincinnati, I call his bluff.
But to your point, it is amazing how nobody has talked about, exactly, a year ago, he was nobody. He couldn't see the field on an Ohio State team that, was okay, but not dynamite. How all of a sudden has everyone fallen so head over heels in love with this kid? And how do the Bengals, who have a massive history of drafting bust quarterbacks, not go, hold on a second, we've seen this movie before?
Yeah. All right, Christian Yelich, $200 million baseball player, MVP, but coming off a knee injury. Brewers put a lot of money into this guy for the future. He's 28 years old. Think he's worth it?
Yes. Last year, 130 games, 44 home runs. His OPS was 1.100, right? 1,100, whatever. It was 100 points higher than the year before when he was a National League MVP. This kid is getting better and better, and the Milwaukee Brewers, the small market teams, they can't continue to be farm systems for the Yankees, Red Sox, Angels, Dodgers. They need to keep their players. They're keeping their best player.
That's Like It or Not, being brought to you by Genesee Brew House. Unfinished Business coming up next.
And now here's this week's MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
When Girl Scout ingenuity meets Dunkin' Coffee, you get a cup of can-do. Girl Scout cookie-inspired flavors are at Dunkin'. Try Thin Mints and Coconut Caramel today. And get a medium latte or cappuccino for $2 from 2 to 6 p.m. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. This segment of Unfinished Business being brought to you by Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat?
If there's a league that doesn't know how to get out of its own way despite its success, it would be the NHL. For years and years ago, work stoppages, arguments between the players and the owners and the commissioner, Gary Bettman, who gets booed every time he walks out on the ice for a Stanley Cup presentation. Their newest thing they're doing? Adding technology to the game. They're going to have these pucks. They're brand new hockey pucks that are sensor pucks. You'll be able to track the puck, computerized, throughout the game on the ice while it's happening. You would think instituting a new technology like this, a brand new puck to a game that's had the same puck for over 100 years, would be something you would want to ease in slow. But that's not what they're doing. They're going to start using this puck for the first game of the playoffs this season. Instead of using it in the preseason to see if it reacts differently or feels different on the end of a player's stick for the most important thing in hockey every year, they're just going to chuck it out there and see what happens. These pucks are extremely expensive. The equipment that goes into it is being installed in arenas as we speak. And it could change the way this game is played. We saw how basketballs and footballs, the feel of them, have affected the NBA and the NFL, and how the NBA switched back after the players didn't like it. You're not going to have that opportunity here. So Gary Bettman, commissioner of the NHL, why do you keep figuring out ways to embarrass yourself when the league is doing fine if you would just get out of the way?
Well said.
Or at least it won't cost the Sabres any more money.
Hey now, a lot of time left.
This is the best time of year for sports. March Madness is around the corner. The NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. Everything is coming up. We got the Masters, Major League Baseball, and what are we all talking about? Turn on SportsCenter, our show today. It's the NFL draft because we're all experts. My favorite part of the NFL draft is the mock drafts, and I'm as guilty as anybody. I read them, I do them, I think about them. I love the team-building philosophy. Yet, I don't know a damn thing about most players in the NFL draft. You can't draft Joe Burrow number one. He had one good year.
Thank you.
How many times have I seen Joe Burrow play? 4, 5? What the hell do I know about Joe Burrow? All I know is this. We're all experts this time of year when it comes to the draft, and we'll all be wrong in another month and a half.
Well, wait and see. Tua is the most interesting. I mean, he had a great career in Alabama.
Great career.
Don't know about his health. That's the biggest concern. Biggest concern I have right now as a New York Knicks fan is how you treat a super fan like Spike Lee. Okay, he went in the wrong entrance, and you asked him to go a different way. But after 28 years of a super fan who, at times, when he's interviewed, talks about how much he loves his Knicks, just goes on of how optimistic he is about the organization, even though they've been in last place the last few years. To treat him that way is totally obscene and unbelievable. My concern is if that's how you treat a super fan who spent nearly $10 million to go to your game and sit in the front row and be loyal, how do you feel about me, the regular fan that just sits and waits for them to make the playoffs? I'm concerned about this because as a Spike Lee fan of not only his movies, this isn't about him as a director, an Academy Award-winning director. This is how fans are being treated. Even Charles Oakley, a man who played for that organization, wasn't treated right. I'm concerned about this with Dolan because if he doesn't care, why should we? Just a little bit, sorry. I just had to get that off my chest. Just for folks that know, he did wash his hands when in between the segment.
Allegedly.
Carl, thanks for the time.
Always a pleasure.
Pat Duffy, I wouldn't be shaking your hand if you didn't wash your hands. And thank you for joining this segment being brought to you by Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. We'll see you next week.